Certain things just don't add up. It makes you wonder.
The family of a missing St. George woman are desperate for answers after her remains are believed to be found.
For years, an invasive plant has spread in our mountains, threatening us and our ecosystem. How the Division of Wildlife Resources is clearing our canyons of myrtle spurge.
Hot temperatures this afternoon, 80s and 90s, the warmest temperatures we've seen in about 8 months. But a cold front's on the way. I'll let you know what that means for that forecast coming up.
The price of prescription drugs continue to skyrocket, leaving many with questions about how to pay their medical bills. Hear what the Utah Insurance Commissioner has to say about what the state can or can't do about it.
And many families rely on the summer lunch program. What you need to know.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
The family of a St. George woman who was missing for months is pleading for more information after her remains were believed to be discovered yesterday. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Chapman. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser spoke to that woman's sister this afternoon.
After half of the year spent trying to find where she went, the remains of 33-year-old Courtney Townsend are believed to be found.
When she went from contacting my parents every day to no contact whatsoever with anybody, that's when we started to get really concerned.
Townsend is from St. George, but her remains were discovered by an ATV driver near the Duck Creek Water Tower in Kane County. Deputies say that's over half a mile away from where this burnt car was found on November 19th. It's Townsend's mother's car, and they believe she took it.
Well, if they had done the search when they initially found the car, we may have found my sister.
Townsend's sister, Dallas Jimenez, was told to wait. It wasn't possible for crews to search until a few weeks ago when the snow had finally melted.
400 and something man hours and couple hundred miles of walked trails, that we'd searched in that area where the car was, trying to locate her.
Lieutenant Alan Aldridge doesn't suspect foul play, but they're still investigating.
We think that she may have just been heading down this road. The car appeared to maybe have gotten high-centered on some rocks and started on fire. It was one possible scenario. It just was an accident.
They're still waiting for the medical examiner's office to confirm the remains are hers. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact the Kane County Sheriff's Office.
We just don't have any answers that bring real closure.
Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Salt Lake City police are investigating a man's death after he was shot and killed in an industrial area just south of the Salt Lake International Airport. Police were called to the area of 3075 West Decade Drive shortly after 4 p.m. today. When officers arrived, they found a man on the ground. Paramedics tried to save his life, but he died on scene. While police do not have a person of interest in custody, investigators are still trying to figure out what happened.
We just want to reiterate that there is no danger to public at this time. This seemed to be an isolated incident.
Just a correction there. Again, police do have a person of interest in custody. Detectives believe some of the witnesses to this incident left the scene before officers arrived. Anyone with any information should call 801-799-3000. Now to an update. It's hoped that the breathing tube being used by Levi Wright, the 3-year-old caught up in Beaver County River last week, will be removed sometime this week in what will be another step in his recovery. Levi's mother, Callie, posted a new message to social media today saying he is currently receiving another 24-hour EKG to monitor brain activity and EEG. He also has a new MRI scheduled that will take place on Friday. Levi, the son of rodeo star Spencer Wright, has been hospitalized since last Tuesday after he drove his toy tractor into a river and was swept downstream until he was rescued. Utah Valley Magazine now apologizing after the magazine got a lot of backlash for including an OBGYN accused of sexual assault by more than 100 women as a top fertility doctor in the Best Of issue. If you recall here, Dr. David Broadbent has been at the center of several lawsuits in connection with his alleged misconduct, even rising all the way to the Utah Supreme Court. But as you can see on this list, Dr. David Broadbent reportedly received enough votes to land in the top 3 of that category. Over the past 3 days, Utah Valley Magazine's social media pages have been flooded with comments questioning Broadbent's inclusion. As of today, the magazine removed Broadbent's name from the list, and the magazine's editors plan to issue a written apology in its next print issue. The triple murder trial of Chad Daybell in Boise, Idaho is nearing its end. Today was the 30th and final day of testimony, and tomorrow will be closing arguments. The prosecution rested its rebuttal case with a retired Rexburg police detective and Dr. Eric Christiansen. Christiansen, the retired Utah medical examiner, was brought back and asked if his opinion changed about the cause of Tammy Daybell's death.
Has your opinion as to the cause of death changed?
No.
Has your opinion as to the manner of death changed?
No.
And what did you determine the cause of death to be?
Asphyxia.
And the manner of death?
Homicide.
Stick with Fox 13 News and our partners with Court TV as we continue to track the final moments of this high-profile murder case. For years, an invasive plant has spread in our mountains, threatening us as well as our ecosystem. But now, Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us how the Division of Wildlife Resources is clearing our canyons of myrtle spurge.
When we say it, we just don't touch it, but we have it even in our yard, and you just see it all over the neighborhood, and then you definitely see it all over the trails.
Christina Hesley's daughter once had a bad reaction to myrtle spurge.
My daughter was playing with a friend in a neighbor's yard, and she just broke out in a hive-type rash pretty immediately.
The Division of Wildlife Resources describes the invasive plant as a dangerous, noxious weed that outcompetes our native plants and degrades wildlife habitats.
It was planted as kind of an ornamental plant in a lot of homeowners' yards here in Utah. But since then, unfortunately, it has spread into some of our wildlands, and it's become harmful for the ecosystem.
Faith Heaton-Jolly says in 2021, the DWR made a first attempt at getting rid of myrtle spurge.
We were physically pulling these weeds out by hand, digging them up. But because the seeds persist in the soil for 8 years, the areas that we had pulled, the next year it would just grow back.
This year, they started spraying the spurge with Roundup.
The herbicides that we are actually using in this treatment allow for quick absorption into the plant and not the surrounding environment.
The DWR started spraying in Parley's Canyon last year, then expanded to Mill Creek. They plan to wrap everything up by June.
I would just hope that they've been doing enough research to know that it wouldn't impact the amazing sage we have in these hills, or we the scrub oak and things like that we want to have remain.
Heaton-Jolly says the herbicides the DWR is using are safe.
We've been using these type of chemical treatments in different parts of Utah for a long time, and we haven't seen any negative impacts to the environment and also to our native wildlife in those areas.
Hesley says it's unfortunate the agency has to fix a problem Utahns created.
We have got to change our ways with this land. We have to be one with it. Instead of trying to have it adapt to us, we need to adapt to it.
In Mill Creek, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Let's check in now with Utah's Weather Authority meteorologist Chris Nunley filling in for Allison tonight. And Chris, for those who don't typically see you weeknights, they can always catch you weekend nights. That's where you typically are.
Yeah, this time Saturday and Sunday night, and I'm delivering really nice weather. And if you exactly, yeah, and if today was just a little too warm for you, I have some cooler temperatures on the way, slightly cooler temperatures, not going to get cold, but there is a weak cold front on the way. Live look over Salt Lake. You can see we do have some cloud cover out there. There were some isolated showers and storms that developed over the mountains. Some of that tried to drift into the valleys, but overall most locations did stay dry. We're sitting at 73 degrees in Logan, 79 right here in Salt Lake. Price 69, pretty comfortable there, right? North wind at 7 miles per hour. St. George George, toasty 89 degrees at this hour. And those temperatures area-wide, relatively uniform. 68 in Cedar City, 76 right now in Milford. Hanksville, 81 degrees. It is 80, holding on to 80 degrees there in Moab. Temperatures over the next few hours are going to stay relatively mild. We're still going to be in the mid-70s at 10 p.m. and notice that we hold on to those temperatures in the 70s through about 1 to 2 in the morning. Overnight low is going to stay relatively mild for the Wasatch Front. Upper 50s, lower 60s, 1 or 2 40s possible. Don't need the jacket as you step out tomorrow. Now I am tracking cooler temperatures. Cold front moving into Idaho. This works in tomorrow. 1 or 2 storms possible. I'll have an hour by hour look at future radar and let you know how cool those temperatures are going to get coming up.
Literally wards of the state. We are the state. They are our children.
The governor declares a foster care emergency, how you can help out. Plus, from Title IX and transgender athletes to book bans and student loan forgiveness. They're all discussed in the latest installment in our Path to the White House series, this time focusing on education.
Real Salt Lake will try to keep it rolling tomorrow against the Sounders. We'll hear from RSL before they flew to Seattle coming up.
Fox 13 News and our parent company Scripps are focusing on the issues that matter most to voters. On the path to the White House, we travel across the country to tell these stories ahead of the November election. Scripps News correspondent Forrest Saunders met with voters in Florida. Here's a small look at that conversation.
So let's introduce everybody and then we'll get to the questions. Anita Hatcher, parent, teacher, plaintiff in a lawsuit challenging one of Florida's very controversial ed laws. We've got Whitney Merlot, Leon County ESE teacher. Maria Culkins, mother, Moms for Liberty, Santa Rosa County chair. And Greg Mathers, parent and attorney. Title IX, that's a big topic. Let's talk about that.
I have 7 kids, including my stepchildren. 5 girls in that group involved in sports. I can't imagine them having to compete against boys, which is what this will do.
It's unconstitutional, first of all. Second of all, it's the opposite of protection. It opens up a door for potential sexual predators to have access to girls' bathrooms.
Nita, do you have a response?
You've ever worked with transgender children, they're the ones who desperately seek that safe space. None of them are going into a restroom or a changing room to flaunt anything. They live in fear. They want to be acknowledged as their authentic selves. Title IX is simply protection for everyone's authentic self.
One of the reasons that Florida got so much attention over the last couple of years is because of the book challenges that we saw in counties across the state. Now, the governor will tell you the reason that these book challenges needed to happen, why the legislature needed to craft the law, was because we were finding what he would call pornography in the classroom in elementary schools. I don't know who wants to start on that one.
For many children, especially rural children, the school library is the only access they have to books. And I think everything should be available and every parent should be involved and make that decision with their child.
These books are not just art. I've challenged 3 books of my own. And the books that I challenged had explicit conversations about sexual activity, stuff that curled your hair to read it. And you're like, this is in a 5th grade library? This is in a 3rd grader's library? What is going on?
This is a national issue, and this is something that people have been talking about now for the last few years. And that is the forgiveness of student loans. You know, I saw a big eye roll there from you, Greg. Why don't we start with you? What is your concern?
Personal responsibility. That's the real world. You take out a loan, you pay it back. That's called being an adult.
I knew that it was my financial responsibility that if I was going to have one, I needed to pay it back. But on the other side, you want quality educators, and you want them to have a quality education to then pour into the other students, but you don't want to pay them their value to cover those loans.
I think personal responsibilities, that's what makes us such a successful nation. And when the government offers to use taxpayers' money to pay somebody else's loans, that's where we have crisis in our economy. And I think it's completely unfair.
I'm curious, have you made up your mind for 2024? Has education played a role in that decision? And if you want to, who are you voting for?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to vote for Donald Trump. This Title IX thing, education is definitely an issue. It's off the hook. Donald Trump.
I hope and I pray that Donald Trump is going to win and we're going to get our country back.
I have not done my extent of laying out the candidates and every piece yet.
And what are you going to be looking for?
Who is going to value students and their free and appropriate public education?
We really don't know whose name might be on that ballot in November. But I will say this, if I had to choose today, I'd pick the man that's married to an English teacher.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, guys. I hope you got something out of this, too.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was Forrest Saunders moderating that discussion on education. We'll be featuring roundtable discussions with voters like what you just saw. We'll cover the hot button issues every Tuesday night on Fox 13 News at 9, leading up to the Republican National Convention in July.
Well, we came out of a holiday weekend and Mother Nature was serving the heat. So I want to take you up to the mountains to kind of cool you down just a little bit. Take a live look at Deer Valley, Bald Mountain, Jordanelle there in the background. And if you look closely, notice dissipating showers and storms that developed across some of the higher terrain earlier this afternoon. You probably saw some of those cumulus clouds, and you can see though over the past few hours that activity has really started to die out with the loss of daytime heating, and most of that activity did not drift into the valleys. However, we did have an outflow boundary that pushed off of the Oquirrh Mountains down into the Salt Lake Valley, and that kept those temperatures from getting up to 90, but despite that, still the warmest temperature we've seen in about 8 months here in Salt Lake. We were 10 degrees above where we should be this time of the year. If you're ready for some slightly cooler temperatures, not going to be cold, but a little closer to where we should be, then look at this. This is a cold front working its way through Idaho right now, and this is going to approach the Beehive State over the next 24 hours, and that's going to keep our temperatures a little bit cooler tomorrow, but still where we should be this time of the year. So let's just go ahead and track it out. This is 3 p.m. tomorrow. That cold front starting to work its way into the West Desert, and this will generate some isolated showers and storms. We have just enough instability or storm energy where we could see some gusty winds, cloud to ground lightning, small hail, as well as some brief heavy rainfall. So if you do have any hiking or biking plans tomorrow, if you see any lightning, you hear any thunder, just make sure that you move indoors until those storms pass. This is 6 p.m. working its way toward the I-15 corridor. That's when there's that possibility of 1 or 2 showers moving into the Salt Lake Valley. So give yourself a little extra time on that evening commute. But we see the showers start to fizzle out pretty quickly with that loss of daytime heating. Highs tomorrow a little bit cooler for the Wasatch Front. Ogden got up to 89 today, only going to get into the mid 70s tomorrow, upper 70s in Salt Lake. St. George going to be toasty again, getting back up into the 90s. Saw a high temperature today of 96 degrees, and it looks like the heat is going to build once we see that cold front move through, kind of knocking those temperatures down a couple of days. We start to see that heat build as we move our way into June. Hard to believe it's June. These red colors indicating that temperatures are favoring above normal for that 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This would be June 3rd through June 7th, and those red colors again are indicating temperatures above normal, and that looks like it continues through the middle of the month. Just to put this into perspective, the normal high here in Salt Lake, upper 70s, we'll say mid to low 90s as you work your way into southern parts of the state. Live look over Salt Lake, 79 degrees, comfortable out there, pretty mild. South wind at 15 miles per hour, still holding on to 89 in St. George. Overnight low stay comfortable. 50s and lower 60s, 1 or 2 upper 40s can't be ruled out. Southern Utah, we could use a cool down. It's just not in the forecast. Temperatures in the 90s over the next several days, flirting with triple digits by the weekend and next week. We see highs in the 70s for the Wasatch Front tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, but back in the 80s for the weekend. Stay tuned. More local news, sports, and weather coming up.
Washington County is getting a big chunk of federal money for a water project. Its water reuse project will get $20 million from the bipartisan infrastructure law. The Washington County Water Conservancy District says it's a critical infusion of cash to help provide southern Utah communities with a reliable water supply. The money was announced by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation today at an event in California. Also today, Utah's governor and first lady held a news conference announcing a very urgent need for foster parents. Governor Spencer Cox says the number of foster parents available is now at an all-time low. First Lady Abby Cox says there are about 1,700 children right now in foster care in Utah, but only 800 families currently signed up. It's why they issued a plea for people to consider becoming foster parents.
They can be single, they can be married, they can be homeowners, they can be renters, they can be LGBTQ, they can be religious, they can be non-religious, they can be parents with children, they can be individuals without children, they can be empty nesters.
This is good for all of us. It's good for the kids, it's good for our society, it's good for everyone if we can step up.
We do have information on how you can sign up, also the requirements to be a foster parent on our website, fox13now.com.
I'll introduce you to another family in Utah who have struggled to pay for their young son's medication, why their bills more than doubled, and what state leaders have to say about it.
We're getting closer to wildland fire season, and a new program in Tooele County is helping residents prepare now before things really heat up.
The BYU basketball team is landing one of the top NBA prospects for next season. We'll tell you about the Russian coming to BYU.
Welcome back, everyone. Many families who live with someone with a chronic disease or illness are struggling to keep up with the cost of their life-saving medications. The state of Utah has previously introduced legislation to combat this very issue with little success. In a special consumer healthcare series this week, Fox 13's consumer investigative reporter Robin Oginye dives in the concept of copay accumulators.
Copay accumulators is when insurance companies are charging a lot more money for medicine.
Almost everybody in the state of Utah has it written into their plan right now.
About $16,000 a dose. That was a shot.
I felt like the insurance companies are doubling up, taking their money and my money, but not letting their money count.
No. It is more important to us to have an increase in our profits than it is for your daughter to stay alive.
This is one bill that directly affects if people live or die.
Go, Carter. Carter or Maya versus mommy and daddy. Okay, Maya, get it past me. They gave us some restrictions right off the bat. No football, no rugby, no hockey. Those are high contact sports, but they said other ones we can talk about.
So we're talking soccer, or at least about a 7.5-year-old who's all about it.
Okay, Carter, do you want to pass it with me?
Carter Bowen is active like many kids his age and has the same hobbies as any second grader.
Dad's got a ball.
I also kind of like to play with friends and watch TV. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video.
He even has his own YouTube channel.
Robin from Fox 13 is here.
Hi! The difference for Carter, a slight bump of the head, a small cut that would be minor for anyone else.
Like and subscribe to this video.
Could mean a trip to the hospital. He has hemophilia, a rare genetic disorder that prevents the body from clotting blood properly.
Those first few years of life were hard. He had a lot of nose and mouth bleeds as a little kid, especially mouth bleeds. He would bite his cheeks and tongue when his teeth were coming in, and we had to go to the hospital for those because that requires infusion medication that we didn't know how to do at home.
Oftentimes, if Carter has an injury that causes a bleed, he requires an infusion that involves finding a vein and injecting his medication to help his blood clot properly.
Is it scary when you have to get infused? Are you used to it? Tell me about that.
Well, the first time it was scary, but now I'm brave.
And the price to infuse is high.
We learned very quickly how expensive the medication is. And as he gets older, that cost goes up because his dose increases as he gains weight and grows taller.
We did an interview with Carter. How'd that go, Carter? Though the cost of Carter's treatments will and have continued to mount, the Bowens did not have to fork out thousands of dollars on their own. The copay assistance they were receiving was actually going toward their deductible. But in 2019, after ordering Carter's first batch of medicine for the year, the family realized they owed much more than expected.
They said, well, were you not warned about this? And I said, warned about what? And they explained to me there's a thing called copay accumulators. Essentially, the insurance company collects the copay assistance, but I'm still responsible for paying my deductible on top of that. That infuriated me because, one, we weren't financially prepared for that year. So we had to fork out thousands of more dollars towards our deductible that we weren't expecting.
But the Bowens experience was copay accumulator adjustment. That's when insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, keep the copay assistance meant for a patient and use it for more profit. The assistance a patient would be receiving does not count toward their deductible or out-of-pocket cost.
And I felt like that was theft. I felt like the insurance companies are doubling up, taking their money and my money, but not letting their money count.
During this year's legislative session, I spoke to Senator Curtis Bramble about legislation he sponsored for a second time, which would have required an insurer to calculate any amounts paid on behalf of an individual to actually count toward their deductible. Labeled Senate Bill 152, it failed. Similar legislation has also failed in Utah several times in the past.
Do you have a role in changing that legislation?
We basically inform. We are act, if you will, as kind of consultants.
This is Utah Insurance Commissioner John Pike. When lawmakers have questions about legislation like Senate Bill 152, Pike says his office is there to present data they have that could be helpful to decision making. In 2023, a few patient organizations sued the United States Department of Health and Human Services to overturn a change implemented by the Trump administration, the one that allowed commercial insurance groups to use copay accumulators. The federal government lost that lawsuit. As of September of last year, that means all copay assistance should count toward a consumer's deductible.
Why are we not enforcing that federal ruling?
Typically, and most states are in this camp, we follow what the federal government enforces. There are a number of states that have their own member accumulator laws already on the books. So typically those are the states that are enforcing those laws. In our case, we don't have such a law on the state books at this time.
I disagree with that analysis.
Rachel Klein is the Deputy Executive Director of the AIDS Institute based in D.C. They helped patients navigate copay accumulators before D.C. passed legislation banning them.
I think that state insurance regulators could be protecting patients that are in their jurisdiction by enforcing this rule.
Why would we need a state law to say we can't do this if the federal government is saying don't do this?
Only because, again, the federal government, the Center for Medicare, now CMS is the abbreviation that nobody would know. But when we don't have the federal government enforcing their own policy, it's hard for us to.
Given that the court issued this ruling stating that the federal regulation also restricts use of these policies, I believe that state regulators have the authority to enforce that federal rule, whether or not HHS is telling them to. There are all sorts of federal rules that are on the books that state regulators enforce all the time without an explicit letter or phone call from someone at the federal government.
It makes me frustrated, it makes me angry, because that should be what the standard is. What the federal government says, that should be the standard. And patients with rare diseases and expensive medications should not suffer because the insurance companies want to double up on the money.
Carter, despite the occasional bumps and bruises, is a happy kid. Ashley is hoping next legislative session will yield a better outcome for patients so that kids like him and others with chronic disorders can stay happy without the worry they can't afford their medication.
I want the legislators to know, listen to your constituents who are in this situation, who are most impacted by copay accumulators, the ones who are on the most expensive medications that are needed to keep their family members alive, listen to us and see how it impacts us. Try to get through my legs. Oh!
Wednesday, you'll meet Jamie. She's been living with multiple sclerosis since 2007 after winning her battle with cancer. You'll also hear from a pharmacist who shares his personal experience of helping customers who find themselves unable to afford their life-saving medications and how he's dealt with copay accumulators. Robin O'Guigne, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The Seamless Summer Lunch Program kicked off in Utah today. We'll have the details on how your child can take advantage of this federal program coming up.
Coming off of the hottest day of the year so far, cold front on the way. This moves in tomorrow. What that means for your Wednesday forecast and the remainder of the week, I'll have a look at that and that 7-day forecast coming up.
Summertime is here for many kids across the state, and for many who rely on school lunches, that can bring about food insecurity. But there is some good news. The Seamless Summer Lunch Program, that's a federal program that provides free lunch at local parks and schools all across the country, kicked off today here in Utah.
Hi guys, how many? 3? Yeah. 3?
3 lunches, order up. Lunch ladies in the South San Pete School District serve sack lunches to the kids at one of a number of different pickup locations now available for kids 18 and under to get a well-balanced meal. The school district's nutrition director says there are so many different pickup spots offered, particularly in rural areas, so kids can come themselves and so their parents who may be at work don't have to drive them. She also says it helps to fill a big gap that comes up for so many families when school's out for the summer.
This is a great opportunity for them to get a well-balanced lunch that maybe they might not get.
How was it?
Good.
Good. Okay, what'd you like best about coming to the summer lunch?
The chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets, that's what she said, right? Always a hit. Lunches will be provided Monday through Friday at many locations. They will send home additional meals on Fridays for the weekend. Some locations also serve breakfasts. To find a location near you, you can go to the Summer Meals for Kids site finder. That address is fns.usda.gov. It is wildfire season. Coming up, how one fire department is helping residents be proactive about protecting their homes.
Coming up in sports, BYU basketball scored a big-time commitment today from a potential NBA lottery pick. And can the Timberwolves finally win a game against the Mavericks? Or the broom's out in Dallas. The highlights are on the way.
The North Tooele Fire District is rolling out a new program aimed up at better preparing and protecting residents for the dangers of wildland fires. John Smith with the North Tooele Fire District says their wildfire risk assessment program offers free fire danger assessments to residents in areas that are considered high risk. The fire district is responsible for more than 1,700 square miles. Tooele County has seen a few notable fire incidents over the last few years, including the Jacob City fire in 2022, which burned 4,000 acres, and the Green Ravine fire in 2019, which threatened homes in Lake Point. Through this program, Smith says they are able to add more resources, which was made possible by a grant.
It's a federal grant through the U.S. Forest Service. It's the Community Wildfire Grant. We have 2 wildland firefighters whose main purpose with the district is to basically keep an eye on the neighborhoods, keep an eye on the areas where the urban landscape meets the wildland landscape.
Smith told Fox 13 News the North Tooele Fire District is the first in the state of Utah to receive and utilize this grant, which will last for 3 years. For more information about the program, we do have a link on our website. You can find it at fox13now.com. Really the perfect day to talk about wildfires when we had the hottest day of the year so far.
Day of the year.
How hot did it get in Salt Lake?
87.
87!
The hottest temperature we've had in 8 months.
Are we going to keep going up from here this week?
You know, we're going to see a brief cool down.
Okay.
But then looking ahead to the upcoming month, it's looking pretty hot. So an important reminder, even though we've had back-to-back wet winters, that means we have a lot of fine fuel out there. So as we dry out and warm out, you want to be cautious.
I was thinking just the other day, I was looking at the bushes and even the grass, trees, everything is so thick and lush already.
Exactly. So as we start to dry out and warm out, you want to be cautious. Don't ride the ATVs in the tall grass. Make sure the chains aren't dragging on your trailers.
The vegetation can dry out quite quickly once we get warm here.
It can, but hey, we have a cool front on the way. We'll take it. So a little bit of relief on the way. And it's a beautiful evening over Salt Lake. You can see that we just have a stunning evening. If you have to get outside one more time to maybe take the dog on a walk, comfortable temperatures, still holding on to the upper 70s here in Salt Lake, but we did get up to 87 degrees this afternoon, the warmest temperature we've seen in 8 months. You have to go all the way back to September of last year. Now the saving grace, we would have hit 90 degrees, but we did see some showers and storms develop in the higher terrain, and we had an outflow boundary or some cool air from the bottom of the showers push into the Salt Lake Valley, and that knocked the temperatures down from the upper 80s all the way down to 81 degrees, and we had to slowly climb back up. But this is a look at one of the showers that did develop. This is Deer Valley Bald Mountain. You can see Jordanelle there in the background. It was busy over the holiday weekend. Notice though the radar not as busy as it was earlier. We've seen a downward trend over the past few hours of the showers and thunderstorms, but we will see an uptick tomorrow as I'm tracking a cold front. This is moving into Idaho right now, blowing through Boise, showers and storms with this, and we have a chance to see some showers and storms and cooler temperatures tomorrow afternoon. Not going to be cold, but hey, we're going to see temperatures fall 10 to 12, maybe in some cases 15 degrees for northern and central parts of the state. Mid to upper 70s for the Wasatch Front. Ogden saw a high today of 89, only going to get into the 70s tomorrow. 94 for St. George, Bullfrog 92, Moab 90 degrees there. So cold front moves in by the afternoon hours tomorrow, 3 p.m. moving into the West Desert. Isolated showers and storms are possible. We have just enough instability or storm energy, so some brief heavy rainfall, cloud to ground lightning, small hail and gusty winds are possible. So if you do have any plans tomorrow, you're biking or hiking or just any recreating outdoors, if you see lightning, you hear thunder, move into your car until the storms pass. Notice as we work our way into the morning hours, though, on Thursday, that activity starts to fizzle out. 79 degrees at this hour. Just a beautiful evening in Salt Lake, especially if you don't have any bugs out there. I think the wind kind of keeping those bugs hidden right now. 89 in St. George, 68 in Cedar City, 76 in Milford. So temperatures are comfortable overnight lows. We do see some areas fall into the 40s, but a lot of areas do stay in the 50s and even lower 60s to start your day off tomorrow. Now looking ahead to June, can't believe we're already talking about June, but we are favoring above normal temperatures. Normal high in Salt Lake, upper 70s, normal high in St. George, 90 degrees, and we're favoring by June 3rd to June 7th those above normal temperatures. That's what that red color indicates from the Climate Prediction Center. And looking beyond that 6 to 10 day scope, 8 to 14 days out, this takes us almost to the middle of June, still favoring above normal temperatures. So we are looking to be dry and warm over the next, really over the foreseeable future. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast for southern Utah. Temperatures flirting with triple digits by Friday, Saturday, and next week. No rain in the forecast. A little bit cooler here for the Wasatch Front, but it's still going to be toasty. We do stay in the 70s tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, but we're up to the upper 80s by Saturday, with those 80s sticking around for the remainder of the weekend.
It looks like the BYU basketball team has landed a potential NBA lottery pick. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reported that Igor Demin has committed to BYU and coach Kevin Young for this upcoming season. The 18-year-old Russian played for Real Madrid this past season, where he averaged 13 points and 5 rebounds per game. He's a highly skilled guard at 6'9", who will be one of the talented recruits in BYU program history. He's projected to be a top 10 pick in next year's NBA draft. The Timberwolves trying to avoid being swept by the Mavericks. Rudy Gobert throws it down. He had 13 points and 10 rebounds. Karl Anthony Towns finally made some shots in this series. A couple of big threes in the fourth quarter. He had 25 points. And then it's Anthony Edwards with the jumper. He had 29. The Timberwolves won at 105-100. The Mavericks lead the series, though, 3-1. Game 4 between the Rangers and Panthers in the East Final, tied at 2 in overtime. Sam Reinhart scored the game winner for Florida. The series is tied at 2 games apiece. Real Salt Lake will try to extend their unbeaten streak to 12 tomorrow when they play at Seattle for the first of 2 MLS matches this week. Fox 13's Andrea Urban caught up with RSL today.
Real Salt Lake is not only first in the West, but they have not lost a game since March, an 11-game unbeaten streak, thanks to a come-from-behind 3-3 draw against Dallas over the weekend. And right now, the team is having fun in all facets.
And it is a goal, and it's a quick answer from Real Salt Lake.
It's been going great. What I really like is, there's a lot of change in the offseason, and it can go either way. I think the coaching staff has done a tremendous job. Front office has done a great job. Players have done a great job. And so I feel really blessed to be a part of a group that is aligned from top to bottom. And that doesn't happen too often in sport. And when you are, and you're experiencing this moment, what gives me the goosebumps is that everyone feels their fingerprints are on this team.
I think this year we've really gotten better at a lot of things. I think our attack is very exciting. I don't think I can remember being on a team that at any given moment can put 3 on the other team, whatever minute it is. These attackers are just kind of making something out of nothing. It really is just a camaraderie and a belief around the team right now that no matter what happens, we'll find our way. If we're down, if we're up, we have a feeling we're going to win. If we're down, we have a feeling we're going to get back into it. And just knowing that kind of gives us the energy we need to go until the final whistle.
RSL will now travel to Seattle, a team that they beat 2-0 just a couple weeks ago with the Claret and Cobalt. Andrea Urban, Fox 13 Sports.
So pretty great stretch, 11 games without a loss. And most of those were wins and a couple ties.
Hopefully they can keep that going. Let's keep it that way. What a get for BYU. Igor, a 6'9" guard.
Who's got great skills. He plays a lot like Luka Doncic, who's played for the Dallas Mavericks. He's incredible.
This one pick could totally change the BYU basketball program.
This could be a landing spot for a lot of players. We'll see how it works. Wow. I wonder how much they had to pay him, NIL, to get him. That's a big question I had, but who knows? Great
Work on that. I want you to find that out and let us all know.
We'll
all
see.
right? To be continued. We'll be right back. That hour flew by, guys.
Yeah, sure did. It was fun.
Thanks for watching. QuickCast is next.